There's a lot of negative things that can be said about Israel's enemies, and viewers of this channel will know that because we say them on a daily basis. One thing that you can't say is that they're inconsistent. They have been consistent. They have been consistent since before Israel was founded in their desire and action to make it so that there are no Jews in the area. They haven't been successful, but they've been consistent. And Hezbollah, of course, has also been consistent since October 7th for the past year. They have been firing rockets, missiles, drones on Israel, on the civilian population in the north of Israel, um, attempting to cause as much damage as they can, causing a lot of damage, not causing the kind of loss of life they would like because Israelis have left the area and are now refugees in their own country. But nonetheless, Hezbollah has the whole time been consistent in its attacks on Israel militarily, if you will. Israel's closest ally, the United States of America, has also been consistent. It has been consistent in its attacks diplomatically on Israel. Other than a few exceptions, notably immediately after the October 7th attacks, America rhetorically stood by Israel before Israel, started responding to October 7th. Immediately after the Iranian attack, I believe it was, or during the Iranian attack, America stood by Israel in attempting to shoot down the missiles and rockets that were fired, but of course, rhetorically, demanded that Israel not act to make sure it doesn't happen again. And now that Israel is starting to do some things in the north to make the part of Israel that Hezbollah has been attacking habitable again. America is being consistent in demanding that escalation be prevented. And of course, those demands are not demands of the terrorists who are by their own admission or boasts, are dedicated to the extermination of the Jewish state, but those demands are of the Jewish state to essentially not defend itself in the manner that would guarantee that the north of Israel is safe. Um, Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm joined by James Valliant. We're going to talk today about that in general, some recent comments by Lloyd Austin, the Defense Secretary of the U.S. I'm going to read a bit of an article from a couple of days ago. James, your initial thoughts on U.S. policy when it comes to Israel's northern front.
The bizarre affront to the very concept of self-defense that America imposes upon Israel is absurd and illogical. And anyone can see it by looking at some simple metaphors, some allegories, if you will. Let's imagine that someone has approached you and has started punching you in the face. Boom, 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 and the swings are coming fast and furious. And you've managed somehow to block each blow, or at least mostly each blow. And someone says, well, you're not going to hit back, are you? Hitting back would be immoral, no matter how many times the person has tried to punch you. And yes, okay, one of his punches grazed the lower part of your chin. That doesn't give you the right to knock out, punch him. No, my friends, it does. It does. When the person starts swinging punches at you, even if you manage to block most of the blows, even if the most they get is a grazing hit on your chin, you have a right to punch them, to knock them to the ground, to stop all of the attempts at delivering those punches. And you can see that's the perfect analog here to what's going on. We are now at the point where we're approaching 8,000 missiles, drones, rockets fired from Lebanon into Israel since October 7th. And look, how about those dozen kids on that football field? Okay, what children have to die and Israel's got to just suck it up before they take it back to Hezbollah? This is insane. Tens of thousands of people have to flee their homes in northern Israel. Well, that's okay. You got to suck it up, Israel. You got to take that. That doesn't give you any right to, oh, homes are being destroyed. Homes are being targeted by Hezbollah. No, no, that doesn't give you any right to fight back, to punch back at Hezbollah in Lebanon. No, ladies and gentlemen, that is a perverse misunderstanding of what self defense requires and actually means. If Israel does not take it to Hezbollah in Lebanon, they are letting down the responsibility they have to protect the people within Israel. It is that morally clear. And indeed, America, far from saying, whoa, 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 we don't want to escalate with Lebanon, we don't want to escalate with Iran, they should be with the very day that Hezbollah started firing rockets in solidarity with Hamas on October 8th, America should have declared war on Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran right then, right there. That's my
Yeah.
understanding of self-defense.
And if they don't declare that war, at the very least, they should, be cheerleaders for Israel to declare that war. Yeah, this analogy, yeah, it's not just that they're blocking kind of most of the punches, and then yeah, 12 kids here and there. Well, what is 12 kids compared to de-escalation? But it's the police officer basically standing by, watching somebody punch you repeatedly and watching you manage to block it mostly. And the police officer says, "You got to win, take the win." That is those are the exact words of the police officer, Joe Biden. So yeah,
Precisely. Precisely. America is like the cop there. America is the one who should be defending civilization. We're the strongest military in the world. We're supposedly stand for freedom. Israel is supposed to be our ally. Iran and these monsters have been attacking and killing Americans now for almost 50 years. At what point does America finally say, no, 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 we're on the side we really are on the side of Israel, we really are on the side of civilization, and we really are against these monstrous, aggressive dictatorships? Yeah, we're the cops saying, take the win if you manage to block at least most of the blows. But you've got to take those blows. And if some blow does happen to graze your chin, a dozen kids get killed on a football field, well, suck it up. Oh, and by the way, IDF soldiers, you got to suck it up and die to make sure that civilians, these quote innocent civilians in Gaza or the West Bank or in Lebanon, you don't want to hurt those civilians. If one of those civilians should die, it's a crime against the universe. But of course, Hezbollah can destroy homes, kill kids, attack in solidarity with the atrocities of October 7th. That is, ladies and gentlemen, that is evasion on a scale that is inviting atrocity and death. If Israel does not aggressively go after Hezbollah in Lebanon, that is a dereliction of their responsibilities to protect the rights of Israelis. And frankly, America, in being the cop out there saying, well, so long as you block most of the blows, they are letting down their responsibility to free trade and a free world and their allies who support those things.
Paul says, I love BB's statement. If they haven't got the message yet, not sure if that was meant to be a joke. I didn't hear that, but that does sound funny. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. James, I wanna read a little bit of an article from sorry, from the Times of Israel. This is 2 days ago. Today's the 22nd, right? Yeah, 2 days
Yes.
ago. But as far as I know, American policy has not changed on this. So
No, the last 2 days.
this is still relevant. So the article goes, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin spoke with Defense Minister Yoav Gallant earlier today, according to a readout from the Pentagon. Austin, quote, reiterated his concern over the escalating tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, the readout states, and emphasized the U.S.'s belief in the, quote, importance of reaching a diplomatic resolution that enables residents to return safely to their homes on both sides of the border. That is amazing, really an amazing statement, and absolutely disgusting. First of all, innocent civilians, good people in southern Lebanon have not been able to return to their homes in 24 years since Israel left southern Lebanon, and its military had a presence there for 18 years, and they basically ran away, is the nicest way to put it, under Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, giving a huge, huge victory to Hezbollah and leaving the entire area to their control. So they will not be safely returning if anybody would like to return there. But no, a diplomatic. Let's again talk about what the problem with diplomacy is. I mean, the problem with diplomacy is you leave out principles, you leave out kind of honesty in a sense, in order to find common ground in places where common ground does not exist. You find the non-existent, and that's what you work with. And when you work with the non-existent, the results are not going to be great. So here, Hezbollah is an organization that exists only for one purpose, which is the extermination of the Jews. That's the only reason there is such an organization. Yes, as we talked about yesterday, they have schools, they have hospitals. Exterminating the Jews is a big project. It's uh, it's
It's
more
a long,
difficult now than it
long-term
used to
stretch
be.
goal. Yes.
Yeah, it's more difficult now than it used to be in the past. Now that the Jews are armed and have their own state, which is well armed. But yeah, what is a diplomatic resolution with people who want to live and people who want the people living not to live? That is a question that I don't know if Austin gets asked in press conferences, but should be asked.
It's so funny. He's got the title Defense Secretary, and he's issuing these, it's defense minister to defense minister. He's communicating it to another guy whose title is in charge of the country's defense. Well, I can imagine no more perverse rejection of the very concept of self-defense than Mr. Austin's assertion. Can you imagine in the middle of World War II saying, before we do D-Day, before we really invade Nazi-occupied continental Europe, we really want to reduce the civilian until there is a solution that can take care of both the civilians in Great Britain who are getting killed by these rockets sent by the Nazis in London and have to hide in the underground. It's a very perfect analogy, you see. Londoners, when they were when missiles were coming, Nazi missiles from the continent were coming into southern England, the residents of London had to go into the underground, literally, to survive, as parts of London were being flattened by these people. So instead of saying, no, we've got to take it to the Nazis and eliminate the Nazis so that we eliminate this threat permanently, no, can you imagine saying, no, what we need to do is find a solution that will minimize the deaths on both the German side and the British side so that doesn't happen again. No, what you do is you take it to Germany and you wipe out Dresden and Frankfurt and every other industrial site in Germany. That's what you do. You destroy the Nazis. The moral equivalence here that he's demanding, and notice how he formulates it, is the most vile and disgusting kind of sanction of evil by equating Hezbollah and Israel. He has, in effect, equated Israel with Hezbollah. Flat out, straight up. It is vile.
Yeah, and so this was a couple of days ago. In the last couple of days, as we said, U.S. policy has not changed. Things have escalated, to use the word that America and those who don't want to take a side often use. Yeah, things have escalated both in terms of Hezbollah firing rockets further into Israel, more rockets than before, and Israel is kind of acting a little bit more strongly in Lebanon, but clearly not strongly enough to to finish the job.
Not
We
soon
talked.
enough to protect those dozen kids. Not strong enough to make this not possible again. And those are the tests here. How long do we have to wait? How many children have to be murdered by these monsters before? How many IDF soldiers must we sacrifice before we say, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't be so worried about, quote, civilian, quote, casualties over there, how they calculate them and what they call civilians and innocents. No, no, no. That is a total dereliction of their responsibilities to defend their countries. No, this should have happened months ago. No, in fact, this should have happened before October 7th. No, indeed, America should have been doing this with Israel decades ago to clear out Iran and Lebanon of all these evil monsters. It is a dereliction of the responsibility of good governments that got us here, ladies and gentlemen, that is right now displacing and killing people in Israel, right now killing Americans in the Middle East, right now disrupting international trade. We can evade all we like, but we are at war. And they keep attacking. And we keep saying, well, no, hold back the response, because if we pretend it's not a real war, it's not a real war. No, that is the formula, ladies and gentlemen, for endless war. Never settling the matter, never really taking it to them, never really decisively incapacitating them and psychologically cowing them, which is what needs to happen.
Yeah, thank you, Frank, for the super chat. Frank says, if Hezbollah or Hamas did this, isn't it resistance? Well, that's what they claim, and again, to some extent, Israel's so-called allies and Israel itself have to accept that there's some sort of legitimacy there if they don't act fully to prevent it from continuing to happen.
The Nazis were simply engaged in resistance against the Allied efforts to prevent them from permanently controlling France. Is that what you're saying? I mean,
Well,
that's
I
the
think.
exact moral equivalent. Britain and America had this terrible problem with, the Nazis invading Poland and France and taking over most of Europe. Okay, that's a real problem for Britain and America. And any efforts that the Nazis have in fighting back, say on D-Day, that's just natural German resistance. I mean, that is how perverse this discussion becomes. That is exactly the level. That's why we have to think in these terms, ladies and gentlemen. We really do. No, of course, one can perceive it as resistance, but to perceive it as resistance means you perceive Israel as its existence as the Nakba, its creation in 1948 as the problem, the crisis. We got to get rid of Israel, is what you're saying. Israel has no right to exist, in effect. And if you're saying no, but I still believe Israel has a right to exist and has a right to defend itself, only it can't kill Hezbollah terrorists who are trying to kill them actively in Lebanon. No, you can't. That's a contradiction. We're
Yeah,
teaching a
by the way,
course.
I don't think, I'm sure Frank was being sarcastic, but Frank then
Yes.
also says, Razi, I had to misspell the word so that the super chat goes through the word resistance. Well, clearly YouTube is owned by Zionists and censors the oppressed. So there's a thing again going back to, by the way, this article had only one more paragraph, so maybe I'll go to that and then I'll um, say what I had to say. So it continues about Austin's conversation with Gallant. It says he told Gallant that the U.S. was continuing to push for a hostage release ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, and reaffirmed the U.S.'s commitment to Israel's security. It adds, yeah, that is such bullshit, that last
No,
point. But
we're
anyway,
teaching for people who might want to be subscribers to the Ayn Rand Center UK. If you are a subscriber to a certain level, you can participate in these logic course that we're doing on Sundays. In fact, I just completed going over Leonard Peikoff's Introduction to Logic, the part 2. But this is a classic example of a contradiction. Austin cannot really mean the last. We're committed to Israel's security, and state the first. We've got to have a negotiated settlement with Hezbollah. That is a flat contradiction, ladies and gentlemen. The law of the excluded middle in logic, if you want to know the technical reason, is what he's saying right there. A and non-A at the same time and in the same respect.
yeah, and since I know Lloyd Austin is a regular viewer of the show, Secretary Austin, you are also welcome to join. We'll give you the special government price of double the normal price, and then we can be accused of also taking government funds, which we've been accused of a lot. That I think is the time has come for that. But yeah, there's thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. There's something about this whole, we're trying to get a deal, we want to have a diplomatic solution, that's also, besides being showing clearly that America is on the wrong side of things, it's also not truthful. I mean, look, Israel, just like in Gaza, that the conflict, the current round of war or military conflict, whatever you want to call it, will end if Hamas surrenders and gives back all the hostages. The exact same way in the north, if Hezbollah fires no more rockets, Israel will not target any more Hezbollah operatives or rocket launchers as they do now on a daily basis. Now, again, viewers of this channel know that I think pretty much everybody on this channel, certainly myself, I do not support that policy. I don't think if Hezbollah now stops firing rockets, Israel should stop. I think Israel should eliminate Hezbollah permanently, and go beyond that to the people who made Hezbollah possible. But yeah, that is the current Israeli policy. So why doesn't the US say that? Look, we want, and again, I don't think they should. I don't think this should be US policy. But if their policy is no more shooting of stuff across the border and no more killing people, their policy should be, look, we have a commitment from Israel that if you stop firing from the north, that if you surrender and send back the hostages in Gaza, this is over. So that's it. But again, the other side wants war, and is benefiting from the war diplomatically by the US standing essentially with them by legitimizing them by pretending that they are the same as Israel. It's just two sides in a conflict, and both sides should avoid escalation. By the way, I don't think I brought this up, but yesterday we talked about Ibrahim Akil, who was eliminated in Lebanon, with the basically the entire all the heads of the Radwan force. This was 2 floors below ground. It was really amazing. But what is coming out now is, we know that the plan was for what happened on October 7th to be on two fronts with Hezbollah fighters invading from the north. That didn't happen. Apparently, the meeting in Lebanon a couple of days ago, where Akil and his top commanders were eliminated, was in order to plan such an invasion into the Galilee, in response to the pager incident. So this
Waiting for
again, this is
Hezbollah. But what? We're actually waiting for a ground invasion of Tiberias before we do anything about Hezbollah. That is the wrong approach to self-defense, ladies and gentlemen. It is like what I was saying. So long as you block the blows. No, 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 no. If you need to block those blows, then what you need to really do is deliver a knockout punch square to the face and flatten the guy. You do not wait until he gets it. What we're saying, in effect, what Austin is saying, in effect, is, well, so long as there's not a ground invasion, so long as Hezbollah is not invading and taking over the Galilee region or the town of Tiberias or something, well, then it's nothing that we really have to fight back against. We have to wait until Israelis die. We have to wait until there's an invasion. No, when the blows start happening, ladies and gentlemen, it is the moral responsibility of the defender to land a knockout punch, not simply to block the blows.
Yeah, and there could be a diplomatic solution on the table which halts hostilities, so to speak, which Hezbollah would honor and not continue firing rockets. There could be a ceasefire deal, ceasefire slash hostage deal, where Hamas would not fire rockets, would not do any more terrorist activities temporarily.
That's
There is no
it.
such deal permanently. Of course, Hamas wants it. Hamas doesn't want to right now do everything it can to kill as many Jews as possible, because it can't do much. It wants time to regroup, to rearm, to reorganize, for Israel to get out of its hair in Gaza. And Hezbollah also, they've taken some hits. They wanna have the time to regroup. They want to have the time to, some people there will get, double and triple promotions, since a few of their superiors have been eliminated recently. But if this invasion of the Galilee doesn't happen now, it's not that it's never going to happen. This would have happened now, kind of, with some urgency, that 3, 5 years from now, it might happen in a much more organized manner. Look, they have already tens of thousands of terrorists in their terrorist army. With any sort of ceasefire that Israel, of course, as we know, will honor, this gives them time to bring people through Syria, from Iran through Syria, And look, that invasion could be, across the entire border. I'm sure there are tunnels that they have. This could end up, and we've said this, if it had happened on October 7th, the occupation of the north of Israel could have been permanent. I mean, parts of it could have been permanent. I don't know if Israel could have handled that war on two fronts. It struggled to handle it on one front. So yeah, a ceasefire or any sort of diplomatic resolution right now is you're signing the death warrant of Israelis, many Israelis in the future.
No, you're guaranteeing more October 7th. You're guaranteeing more innocent good guys die. That is not ending the war. It's keeping the aggressor alive and well and giving him a breather. No, the formula for continuous, endless death and warfare is to let these savages get a breather every time and to say ceasefire now. Can you imagine? Okay, I'm tired of the Nazi example. Let's use Japan. During World War II, they invade China and they say, okay, now that we've taken over, most of China, now we want a ceasefire. Let us catch our breath. Don't, allies, Britain and America, don't you be attacking Japan right now. So let us catch our breath after we've just invaded China. Oh, and after Pearl Harbor, let us catch our breath. Don't attack us, America. Don't declare war on us, America. After just because we've attacked you directly, don't attack us. Let us have a breather. We can hear in the context of a real war back when the West fought real wars, the actual moral context here that is never applied contextually. The reason why we have a permanent peace with Japan and the reason why we have now a permanent peace with Germany is because we refused to fight a half-assed war, engage in peace negotiations with the aggressive dictator. Once you do that, you have ensconced them in there forever, and you can guarantee that there will be more attacks. You will guarantee that if you give the Nazis Czechoslovakia, guess what? Poland and France are next. And that's what's going to happen here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know that these savages are not as technologically sophisticated as the Nazis were compared in that time, but that only shows what a dereliction of responsibility it is on the part of civilized nations. It would be much easier for us to take out these savages permanently than it would be the Nazis when and if we decide to get our moral act together and take out the threat. Just as you pointed out, Secretary Austin, if Israel has a right to defend itself, it has a right to utterly destroy Hezbollah. If we believe that we are in solidarity with that, then together we should address the issue coming from Iran. Mr. Austin, you do not understand your job description, your title, the function of a national defense at all. In fact, you've let that go completely. In fact, you're encouraging, you're feeding, in fact, literally, you're insisting that we feed the enemy, keep him alive, continue, sanction his existence and keep him going so that he can kill tomorrow or next week or next year or whenever it is they've caught their breath to continue their assault on civilization and the destruction of Israel. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, by the way, we're gonna probably go a couple of minutes over, so people waiting for the reality show extra, that'll be a few minutes late. Thank you, Robert, for the super chat. Robert says, "End states who sponsor terrorism." Leonard Peikoff. Yes, that is a great essay by Peikoff right after 9/11. Of course, Robert had to write that with all sorts of different letters and signs because yeah.
We have a great interview
Algorithm.
with Leonard Peikoff now available for the Ayn Rand Center UK, and I directly addressed that with him at the very beginning. Had the West listened to Leonard Peikoff more than 20 years ago and addressed the problem of Iran, October 7th would not have happened. We ignored Leonard Peikoff, and guess what? We got the atrocities of October 7th as a direct result.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's by the way, it went further than ignoring Leonard Peikoff. If other than that great article, I'd recommend watching Peikoff on the O'Reilly factor because just O'Reilly's response, and O'Reilly, is not left wing as he liked to say. He's not left wing. He's not right wing. He's a centrist. I think he was But he's a conservative. I don't know if anybody buys that bullshit. But he was like his he was looking at Peikoff like, what are you talking about? What do you mean go in with full force? Like, I don't want civilians to die. Well, you don't want civilians to die, you get civilians dying just on your side rather than the enemy's side. And yeah, it's not just Peikoff we didn't listen to, it was Ayn Rand as well, who in
Yeah.
1979 said the fact that the US didn't go in with full force as soon as the people at the embassy were taken hostage is something it'll take us years to live down, as she said. And yeah, it's been 45 years and we are still paying the price. And we are doubling down on the policies that got us there in the first place. Thank you, Gigi Ryder, for the super chat. Gigi Ryder says, not knocking out the party trying to punch you could be applicable if opponent was weak, helpless, childlike, how they like to depict Israel's enemies. Also, mendacious, quote, justified grievances. Um, Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Lebanon is a Nazi state. Well, it certainly shares one goal with the Nazis, and again, we've talked about how it's not exactly the same as the Palestinians because there are people in Lebanon who oppose Hezbollah, uh, who oppose their government that is supportive of Hezbollah, but uh, Nazi Germany had good people who opposed the Nazi regime. I don't think they oppose the idea of any other country fighting against the Nazi regime, especially since the Nazis started that war as well. Like it wasn't that the Nazis were internally exterminating their Jews and whoever they didn't like. This was an offensive war that countries had to defend themselves against the Nazis. And yeah,
It
it was.
isn't just Israelis that we're betraying. You know, there's a population in Iran who would prefer modernity, at least a significant portion of it. They are also being betrayed. They are being oppressed by a theocratic dictatorship in Iran, and the world is not lifting a finger to help them. Quite the opposite. We're helping to permanently entrench evil as their government. Similarly, there are, I am told, a Christian population and a moderate population in Lebanon. What are we doing to help them? Are we not ignoring them, their needs? They have to live under the oppression of Hezbollah and be subject rationally to rockets coming in self-defense from Israel or America? Really? No, we betray all good people of the world wherever they live if we sanction evil in the way that Secretary Austin demands we sanction evil.
Yeah, PC says if Harris wins, it'll get far worse. I think that's true. If Harris wins, it'll get far worse for Israel. If Trump wins, things on the Ukraine-Russia front will get far worse. And in both cases, the ramifications for the future of Western civilization. I know it always sounds dramatic when people put it that way, but yeah, are grave. I mean, showing weakness in the face of Islamic terrorism, we see daily the results of that with what Israel is going to through. Showing weakness in the face of Russia will not just embolden Russia; it'll embolden the Muslims in the Middle East. It will, and the worst among them. It will embolden China. It will embolden anybody in North Korea, anybody who thinks of attacking the West, attacking America, attacking America's allies, attacking any country where there is freedom. America will be sending a message if it surrenders, basically sacrifices Ukraine. We'll be sending a message. We are not going to stand up for our allies, and that's it. And America is sending that message now when it comes to Israel.
No, that's precisely it. That is exactly it. We are saying every aggressive dictator in the world will get a Valentine. How can I put it? They will not. They will get material aid and support. They'll get moral sanction. They will get a keep up the good work. Aggressive dictators of the world, whether in Moscow, Tehran, Beijing, you name it.
Yeah, and then PC says, then Razi, we cannot win whoever wins. I'm afraid that is correct. On that positive note, James, any parting thoughts?
No, I think we've morally identified the situation here correctly. And yes, it's not just Dr. Peikoff from more than 20 years ago. It was Miss Rand from about 50 years ago now, 45 years ago now, at least. We've been ignoring the what any person who has a clear conceptual understanding of what self-defense means, what aggression means, the threat that dictatorships are uh, should have been listened to 50, 60 years ago, and we would not be in this plight right now. But alas, we do not have conceptual clarity. We do not understand the morality of self-defense properly. That's where it is, ladies and gentlemen. The action is in philosophy. And it is philosophers who predicted certain philosophers, at least, who predicted precisely the horrors that we would face if we did not address real evil. You're going to get a perspective here, ladies and gentlemen, you get nowhere else. So please do consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Ayn Rand Center UK. We're doing something here very important. Nothing short. It's not hyperbolic, what Razi said. We're talking about the defense of civilization as such. And on that issue, when it comes to stopping the aggressors in Tehran and Moscow, we're talking about civilization itself, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. There are a couple of comments I want to just quickly address. Leo says, only this week the Iranian foreign minister said that Russia's victory in Ukraine is Iran's victory as well. Yeah, keep that in mind. Weird people who think they can support Ukraine and the Palestinians. No, you either support civilization or you support the savages. You can't, have both, because that means the savages ultimately win. And there's a pro-Hamas troll in the chat who says, uh, one answer, two-state solution and get out of the Golan Heights in the West Bank. So again, these people often tell you more than I think they intend to reveal. The Golan Heights have been Israeli territory since, I don't remember when exactly they were annexed, but they were taken over in 1967. At some point they were annexed. The people there are Israeli citizens. They vote. They can express views against their own government. They can do all sorts of things that you can't do under Assad's regime, which is what this person wants. Daniel says 1981 was the annexation. So yeah, more than 40 years they've been Israeli citizens. This person wants, and again, this is across the board. You won't find a pro-Palestinian who says Israel should keep the Golan Heights. 100% of them will tell you that they want the people in the Golan Heights living in a free country, in a country that respects their rights, not enough, but the only country in the Middle East that respects the rights of its citizens. They want them to go live under Assad's regime. This is what these people want. Like, these people want tyranny. Don't buy into their bullshit about women and children, and they care about the downtrodden. They don't. They care about those who are not downtrodden, to make sure they are downtrodden. That is the extent to which, and of course, this person has other things to say, like occupiers do not have the right to self-defense, which means essentially that is a YouTube algorithm friendly way of saying rape is okay, torture is okay, burning people alive is okay, slaughtering men, women, children is okay when they're Jews. Of course, if Palestinian terrorists hide behind women and children, and those women and children end up dead, that is also the Jews' fault. Anybody who dies, Jews or non-Jews, the Jews are to blame. Yeah, always when we say on this channel, listen to the Palestinians. Don't listen to the supporters in the West. Listen to the Palestinians when you want to judge who the Palestinians are. You should listen. The time you should listen to their supporters in the West is the time when they tell you who they are, because these are people who live among us, and we should pay close attention and decide to what extent we want to interact with them. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says I blocked him, Razi. Well, you're missing out. That's. I mean, I understand. I understand you don't want these
It is a
people.
naked. I do understand. It's a naked defense. This blather about right of self-determination and a two-state solution, as Razi points out, is a naked advocacy of dictatorship, an open advocacy of dictatorship. And so, yeah, I can understand why you'd block a monster like that. But that's what he's advocating. He's advocating the right to oppress people, the right of dictators to exist. And I just, as I keep pointing out, the Golan Heights was only used as a launching pad to attack Israel until a far more benevolent, rights respecting government took that area over and made it a civilized place for people to live in. That is what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, civilization versus dictatorship. And any of this blather about the right of self determination or a two state solution is an overt advocacy of dictatorship, nothing less.
Yeah, and PC says I cannot stand pro-Hamas trolls. Yeah, again, I completely understand it, but I stand by my statement. You should listen to them when they tell you who they are, and hopefully you don't block me. But I'm going to read something else this person says because now they say one democratic state like New York or New Jersey, same rules for all. Uh, First of all, they move quickly, right? It was a two-state solution a couple of minutes ago. Now it's a
We're
one-state
talking
solution.
about New York and
But
New Jersey. Really? I
But the
mean,
one
come on.
state solution that's interesting because there was no there was no one state solution on October 7th. There was a fence and there was military presence, and to the extent that Palestinians managed to get through, managed to be basically where Israelis are, they did all those things that this person support. They raped, they tortured people, they burned people alive, they murdered people, they took hostages, kept them in unbelievably inhumane conditions, and are still keeping them in such conditions. And what this person wants is for there not to be a fence, not to be a military in between the murderers and those they want to murder. So
I
again,
haven't seen.
listen to
I
them
haven't
when they
seen.
tell you who they are.
If there had been incursions from New Jersey into New York across the Hudson River, where they were slaughtering civilians, killing children in front of their mothers, raping people literally to death, burning children. If New Jersey had a recent history of incursions across the Hudson River into New York, I would not advocate a two state solution between New York and New Jersey. It is only because New York and New Jersey recognize the right of the other state to exist in peace and are willing to engage in peaceful trade with them that permits us to have a two-state solution when it comes to New York and New Jersey. And frankly, when it's at that level of peace, it's almost a needless. You say, well, the Hudson River. Well, the Hudson River is just a geographical border. They're both rights respecting states. They're both this side of civilization. And that is what permits a two-state solution to occur in the Hudson River Valley. Is because both sides of that river respect rights and don't want to destroy the other. One of them isn't attacking and raping and killing and doing atrocities against the other. If there were, I would say that those folks in that state have to be wiped out utterly before you can even begin to consider what state solution there it makes sense in that context. The difference between New York and New Jersey and Hamas and Israel or Hezbollah and Israel makes it so obvious when you just concretize that for 2 seconds. Really? We're going to have the relationship between this new Palestinian state in the same way that New York and New Jersey interact. No, ladies and gentlemen, that requires a vast cultural and political context that both sides assume walking into it. And Hamas and Hezbollah overtly reject the very premises of that sort of peaceful coexistence.
Um, I know we're already like 15 minutes into what would normally be the reality show extra. And sometimes on the reality show extra, we read trolls' comments without, of course, naming. We never name the trolls. Trolls don't deserve to be named. But yeah, I am kind of channeling the spirit of the reality show extra. Somebody in the chat said, "What a racist news station." Well, not racist, not news, not a station. Other than that, you got it right. But this
No, no, no,
person
no, no,
says,
no, no,
however,
no. What a racist comment. What an anti-Semitic comment that was.
Swear.
An
You're allowed to
ugly
swear.
racist. Get it?
we can swear on this channel. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Right. No, that was a particularly racist comment just made there. Yeah.
but this person did say, however, I believe in the free press. So they allow us to exist. Thank you. The people you support, the Palestinians, would not allow us to exist. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Try
and
saying
would
that in
probably not allow
Iran.
you to exist for advocating a free press. So
Yeah, you're not going to get a free press in Iran or in some second Palestinian state that might be erected in the West Bank or Gaza. No, they don't advocate free speech there. They wouldn't allow free press there. They would impose a brutal theocratic dictatorship. That is their intention. That is their goal. They don't respect any of these freedoms, and those are the freedoms that are actually at stake. And the Islamic world is racist. To defend them is racist. They want Israel Jews destroyed, all of them, full stop. When you don't recognize that, you are sanctioning their racism. Just to spell out what I was meaning earlier.
Tron77 says they are primitive national socialists. This super chat was a few minutes ago. I don't know who you're referring to. If it's the trolls in the chat, maybe if it's the Islamists. I don't know if they're ideological enough to actually come up with something like National Socialism. They're mostly just killed the Jews, savages. But yeah, all right. Anything else, James? I know we're really it's whenever we don't have a TRS, and we do have a TRS extra today. By the way, I know we've taken a big chunk out of the time of TRS extra. Something we are hoping to have sometime in the next few days. I don't want to 100% guarantee it, but I think it's very likely. Is a clip, a few minutes of some of the recording of James, your interview with Leonard Peikoff, but other than the interview. Like the interview is on the channel. It's 64 minutes long. But we were on Zoom for like 3 hours. So a lot of
More
that
material
was,
than we could use, actually, at least then and there.
yeah, I mean, a lot of that was, repositioning microphones
Okay.
and camera and stuff. But I think
Our doing, yeah.
there are a few minutes that are going to be interesting. We're going to put that as members only and YouTube members only content if we do go ahead with that. And the reality show extra is also members and YouTube members only. So if you're not a member, now is the time to join. We will see you tomorrow with the Daily Objective and the reality show. And Inner Circle members will see you tomorrow on the production meeting, which starts, by the way, 30 minutes earlier. So it's an hour-long production meeting. It's one of the bigger ones, more people, and yeah, make sure you tune into that, because the point of the Inner Circle membership is people who watch the channel regularly, who care about what we do enough to buy a membership that is far from cheap. And yeah, that meeting is kind of going to be more less about, what are we going to do on these shows the next couple of days, and more of a long-term vision thing. So please do consider joining that membership level. And if you are at that membership level, that meeting. Okay, filibuster over. Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Be safe.